Okay, so today we are going over some rumors and ideas that were tossed out there on yesterday's edition of Hockey Night in Canada. Now, like most of the things that we talk about in this channel in the rumor sphere, not always do the things that we talk about actually end up resulting in trades or signings or whatever. It's just speculation, it's just conversation, it is talking for the sake of having something to talk about. And I feel like with this tidbit of information shared by Elliotte Friedman on yesterday's Saturday Night Headlines, what we're dealing with in this situation is just that. It's just a conversation. It's not a guarantee as to what's going to happen in the future. It's just an update from Elliotte Friedman himself saying, hey, Team A is interested in a few players from Team B. That's it. So, let's go over onto a tweet made by Oilers Access on Twitter that pretty much summarizes what it is that Elliotte Friedman says on yesterday's broadcast. The video, I'll try to find it. If I could get a link, then I'll put it in the description if you want to go ahead and watch it. But Friedman, of course, always going out there with the updates and inner workings of the NHL. He goes out there and talks about the Edmonton Oilers and their goaltending situation. Now, as we have talked about over the past few weeks, the goaltending in Edmonton has been atrocious. Just terrible. Jack Campbell was supposed to be the #1 guy. He was so bad that he got sent down to the AHL. Stuart Skinner, while being slightly better, is just that. Slightly better. He has also been fairly bad this season, and even yesterday, the guy went out there with yet another .750 save percentage game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not a great showcase in the slightest for the now de facto starter goaltender of the team. Olivier Rodrigue, you could say he's too young. Calvin Pickard, you could say he may not be good enough to be a #1 goalie in the NHL. So with the idea that the Oilers are still looking for goaltenders on the market, we had seen rumors about the Nashville Predators. There is some talk around Linus Ullmark floating around there. But Friedman goes out there and talks about Montreal as a potential goaltender acquisition for Edmonton. Here's the tweet that summarizes what Friedman said. He says the Oilers are still looking at the goaltender market. They were in Montreal this week looking at all 3 of the Habs goalies. However, he doesn't believe that anything is imminent. Now, of course, just because Elliotte Friedman does not believe anything is guaranteed to happening does not mean that something is not going to happen. We could very well see a Jake Allen trade to Edmonton in the next 24 hours or so, and it wouldn't really misalign with what we had just heard on the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast last night. But the idea of the Oilers going after either or all of the 3 Montreal Canadiens goalies really does get me a little bit intrigued as to where their priorities lie. Like, of course, it's in their best interest to go after and look at everybody. Anybody who could be in the trade market as a goalie, you have to look at all the options, see what's on the table, see what you like, see what you don't like. Even if you're like, okay, we're not going to trade for this guy, but we have to do our due diligence and check up on him just in case. Like, the Oilers looking at all 3 of the Canadiens goaltenders probably is a good move on their behalf, but I don't know, the optics of that, it just feels kind of funny, hearing that the Oilers in their goaltender search did indeed visit Montreal and look at all their goalies. The reason I say it like that is because for the most part, I want to say goaltending in Montreal has been so hot and cold this year that it's difficult to really understand what you're getting if you trade for a Montreal goalie. Sure, if you look at the numbers, you could say, hey, Jake Allen has a .911 save percentage. That's pretty good. Samuel Montembeault, .908 save percentage, .278 goals against. That's not bad. Even Caden Primo, if you wanted to go out there and look at him, his numbers are terrible this season. .885 save percentage and a .398 goals against. But I think a lot of Canadiens fans from watching the past few games would go out there and say that Caden Primo is playing a little bit better than his numbers would indicate. He has had some stinker games in front of him that have resulted in poor numbers and poor defensive coverage in front of him. Interestingly enough, I feel like if you want to go off of trends, it feels more so like Jake Allen seems like the guy on the hot seat rather than any of the other 2. Just based off of how Canadiens fans are reacting to some of these games, the game against Boston yesterday where some of these goals went in, not really the best showcase out of Jake the Snake. But of course, all of these goaltenders have their problems, all these goaltenders have their strengths. I'd say it's probably fair to assume any of them can make 30 to 40 saves on a given night. It's just with a defense in front of them that's so bad like Montreal, I mean, some nights you're getting 40-plus saves, but you're still ending it off with an .870 save percentage. Like, that happens sometimes with these goaltenders. And another problem is that if you want to talk about the Oilers' defense, I think it's pretty fair to say that the Oilers' decor is not too much better than the Canadiens, if you even want to say it's better at all. It's not like getting a guy like Jake Allen, who's already used to playing behind a bad defense, is gonna guarantee your team as a winner. Like, sure, he's an upgrade over Jack Campbell, and you could very well say he's an upgrade over Stuart Skinner, but is the difference in goaltending magnitude talent from Skinner to Jake Allen enough to push this Oilers team back into Stanley Cup championship contention? One goalie can win you games, sure, but if you're giving this guy terrible defense in front of him, like the Montreal Canadiens have been for the past few years, you're not going to get a guy who's setting himself up on the path to success. And for the Oilers' defense, I mean, they still have a lot to improve on, and no caliber of goaltender is going to bail this team out when you're giving up all these chances and you're not supporting the rush the opposite way. You're letting guys go on their forecheck and you're losing your own checks. Like, it's so disorganized. Some of these plays that the Oilers give up to opposition on the rush, it's tough to battle against if you're a goaltender. So whether it is Jake Allen, who has had his very high save number nights, like he makes a lot of stops, but he does let a few goals in, whether it's Samuel Montembeault, who I'd argue has been probably the quote-unquote best goalie on the team this year, or whether it's Caden Primo, whose numbers definitely don't make him look great, but who probably does have a lot more to show for at the NHL level, considering he is so young and he hasn't had that big breakout opportunity in a number one or even a backup role in the past few years anyway. If it's any of these guys in Edmonton, my question to you if you're an Oilers fan is, do you feel more secure about your team if you get one of these? Because I've been seeing a lot of Oilers fans, even replying to the tweet that we looked at, saying, hey, none of Primo, Allen, or Stuart Skinner or whatever is like significantly better than the other. So we are totally doomed if these are the guys that we're looking at. We need to go after a guy who's legit, valuable, an actual number one. Jake Allen, I'm sorry, I love the guy, but he has been sort of in the backup role most of the times he has been on a good team. Like, he lost his starting job to Jordan Binnington when they went to the finals and won the Stanley Cup. When the Montreal Canadiens went to the finals, guess what? Allen didn't play a game. It was just Carey Price. And, of course, Carey Price doing his thing, he's phenomenal, NHL legend right there, but Jake Allen was on the bench giving the support. This is the thing, if you have a team where Jake Allen is your number one, you could very well debate that's not a good enough goaltender to win you a Stanley Cup. Allen as a backup is phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but is he ready to be a number one on a team like he was in St. Louis and carry a team to a Stanley Cup championship? Even in 2016-17, I mean, the guy was super good then, but the Blues were not able to win the Stanley Cup until 2 years after, so I don't know. My question to you is, if it's Jake Allen, for example, in Edmonton, does that fix your issue? We already talked about the idea of Jake Allen going over to Edmonton in an earlier video. That was the one where we also discussed UC Saros and Jordan Binnington, and, you know, it was kind of funny having Binnington as the guy potentially suiting up in Oil Town. But if it's Jake Allen, it's one of Montembeault, it's Caden Primo. What are your thoughts on that if you're an Oilers fan? Do these goaltenders fix your problem? And if you're a Canadiens fan, what do you want in return from Edmonton for any of these three guys? We had already discussed the idea of Xavier Bourgault, prospect in the Edmonton system that the Canadiens apparently value, which is not too surprising. I mean, the guy's a French Canadian, for crying out loud. You can check out the video we made last week if you want to get the entire scouting report on him. But if it's a goalie trade involving one of Allen or Montembeault or Primo, do you want just Bourgault in return? Do you want Bourgault and maybe another pick? Do you want some other prospect like, for example, Raphael Lavoie, who is also a French Canadian, cough cough? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your ideas surrounding this premise? Caden Primo, Jake Allen, Samuel Montembeault, each of these three guys all being looked at and talked about within the Edmonton Oilers management staff as potential goaltender targets. Again, Friedman says he doesn't think anything is imminent, so if there isn't a trade, we shouldn't be surprised. But of course, that's kind of how all trade conversations seem to go, especially the speculative ones. But either way, this is the update. Each of these three goaltenders the Oilers have looked at. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section as to what a trade could look like and whether or not you'd be okay with this type of a move. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rolls 99, and bye.